Amidst sun-gilded seashore, salt-washed breeze, and the occasional cacophony of seagulls, a weathered old man drags an equally old and worn dory up and onto a lonely rock in the middle of the cove. He's been looking forward to this moment all day, a chance to get away from everyone and everything, to lose himself in the soothing breath of the tide, as well as his stories. These are stories from the rock. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second part of our ninth episode, 9B, of Stories from the Rock. This episode will be continuing the story we began last time, Oliver Dorian by Maryte Running. We last left off at the beginning of chapter 9 of Oliver Dorian, and perhaps that's the reason why I decided to split the ninth episode into two rather than making the 10th episode the part 2. I have a thing for numbers and repetitions, so you're going to have to indulge me. Since it's chapter 9, it's also going to be still the ninth episode. Yeah, it's a quirk of mine. Just leave it alone. So, if you'd like to know more about Maryte, I would highly recommend listening to our episode that came before, where we go into a lot more depth about the author, as well as their accomplishments. But for now, let's dive straight in to the second part of this story. Oliver Dorian, Chapter 9, Garbage is Everywhere. Chapter 9 of Oliver Dorian. Garbage is everywhere. After lunch, Oliver went to drop off his empty juice box into the recycling bin. Usually, he brought his juice or milk to school in a thermos, but he had been in a hurry this morning and forgot to fill it. Instead, he had bought a juice box at the cafeteria. He went to put the empty juice box in the recycling bin, but the bin was full. Other kids had started to drop their empty juice boxes into the big garbage can that stood beside the recycling bin. Oliver was quite surprised. He had never realized the amount of garbage that came from lunchtime before. There was so much of it. Oliver regularly used reusable containers for his lunch, so he didn't often have garbage to throw away. He was very surprised at how much there was. Maybe his own school should become environmentally healthy first. It was definitely something he was going to be looking into. Maybe the environmental group who created a solution for water pollution could start a group that would look into school garbage next year. Garbage which led to pollution was everywhere. Oliver went to tell the school cafeteria staff about the recycling bin problem. One of the ladies from the kitchen suggested he tell the janitor. "It's not our job, honey," she said. "You need to find Frank, the janitor, and let him know. That's his job." Frank was known around the school as being friendly and helpful. Oliver didn't mind finding him and asking him. Oliver went to the janitor's room. This was a busy place. Frank was there, but it looked like he was quite busy cleaning out some other bins. Oliver felt bad because he could see that he was busy and now he didn't want to bother him. So Oliver offered to change out the recycling bin himself. Frank seemed puzzled. No one had ever offered to help him before. "Don't worry, Oliver. I'll just be about 10 minutes more finishing up here and I'll be right there." "That's okay, Frank. I can do it, if you don't mind," said Oliver. Even though he knew it was his job, Frank could tell that for some reason, Oliver really wanted to change the recycling bin himself. He couldn't see the harm in Oliver bringing a clean, empty recycle bin to the cafeteria. It was only next door from the janitor's room. "If you really want to," said Frank, "just be careful." Oliver brought the empty bin over and set it up. He then took a few recycling items out of the trash can and put them in the new empty recycling bin. Just as he was finishing up, he looked up and saw his friends Zach and Joey with a small group of other kids from his class, and they were staring at him. He was a bit embarrassed at first. Did they think he was going through their garbage, maybe looking for food? It was an awkward moment, but then he told them, I'm just helping Frank switch out the recycling bin. It was full. Some of the kids laughed at him and asked if he was getting paid. You are a strange one, Oliver, said Zach, but he smiled and then walked away with Joey and his friends. Zach knew and liked what Oliver had been doing, and Zach kind of liked, even admired, Oliver, but it wasn't very cool. He could tell by the way the other kids had laughed at Oliver. Zach didn't want the other kids to think that he wasn't cool and maybe laugh at him, too. Oliver didn't seem to care, though. That was pretty cool. Chapter 10. Oliver has a plan. Later that same day, Mrs. Harding asked Oliver if he would like a ride home after school. She often gave Oliver a ride home when she was going to his house because it was Friday. She wanted to go to Oliver's cottage to pick up some fresh seafood for the weekend. First, though, they would swing by Mrs. Harding's house and pick up Bo and Stormy. Bo should be home from school by then, so it was a good plan. Yay! Bo was coming to his house and would probably sleep over too because there was no school tomorrow. Oliver loved those kinds of visits. Oliver had his idea for the school contest planned out and he wanted to see what Bo thought. He trusted that Bo would be honest about Oliver's plan. Oliver helped Mrs. Harding put his bike onto the bike rack at the back of the car. He hopped into the back of the car and off they went to get Bo. On the car ride, Mrs. Harding asked him, I'm guessing you will be entering the contest, Oliver? Do you have any idea yet on what you will be working on? She knew Oliver was very interested in the sea and especially pollution. Her son Bo was the same way. She knew this contest would really interest Oliver. I don't know yet what I'm going to do, he replied. He seemed very quiet. Then he told his teacher, there is so much to think about, and everyone in the class has lots of really big ideas. I know how important this is to clean up our sea. I have a lot to think about. My idea, though, is not that big. It's very simple, and I doubt it will win, but I'd like to enter the contest because it would give me a chance to say what I think about how we do things. I have lots of ideas about that. Normally, Oliver was quite chatty with Bo's mom, but today he seemed deep in thought. She drove quietly along the way to the farm on Ocean Pond, giving him time to think. When they got to the Harding's house, Bo was all ready to go when they pulled up. He not only had his pack sack ready, but he had also arranged his clothes. Sometimes when Bo came, they were both able to help Oliver's dad with the boat and the fish, and Bo knew he couldn't wear his school clothes. He had already put on the clothes he wore around the farm and even had on his farm boots. Stormy was sitting next to him. His tail started to wag madly when he saw Oliver in the car. He was ready to go too. Once again, Oliver was pretty quiet in the ride to his house. When they got there, Oliver changed out of his school clothes right away. Mrs. Harding went into their cottage, and Oliver's mom put the kettle on for some tea. Both of them, along with Nanny, were big tea lovers. Right away, all three started to chat and get caught up on local news and upcoming events. Mrs. Harding filled them in right away about the big contest coming up. Bo and Oliver grabbed some sandwiches Nanny had already set out, and off they went, heading down to the old boatyard. Stormy and Jasper were close behind. The dogs were not only ready to have some fun, but they also wanted to check out what kind of sandwiches the boys had. The boys still had some time to play around the old boats until Oliver's dad's fishing boat came in. As they were gathering driftwood, Oliver told Bo all about the contest. Then he told him about his idea for the contest and what he wanted to do. Bo smiled at his friend. He understood what Oliver wanted to do, what the plan was. Then he said, "What a great idea! I really like it, Oliver. If you need any help, just let me know." "Thank you, Bo," said Oliver in a relieved voice. "But I don't think anyone would be able to help me with this." His project was simple, maybe too simple. He still wasn't sure if it was a good idea yet, and he was going to do it. He'd have to think about it some more. Chapter 11. Visitors for Contest Day. The day of the contest was fast approaching. It was also a busy time of year in the fishing industry. Now, every day after school, Oliver helped his father with the day's catch. Most days it was just the two of them, but sometimes Bo would come over. It was nice having Bo there to help. Andy would give Bo some fresh seafood to take home for helping. Then all three would take the fish to the market. Each of the boys also got paid for their help before driving Bo home. Both Oliver and Bo enjoyed getting the extra cash. During the busy time, in the middle of this hustle and bustle, Oliver's family got some great news. At supper one day, his mother asked, "Guess who's coming to visit us, Oliver?" Oliver just shrugged. He didn't know. His mother continued, "Your Grammy and Papa are coming, all the way from Montreal. Isn't that wonderful?" At first, Oliver was so excited when he heard this. Then he suddenly became very nervous. "Will they be here for the contest at school?" he asked his mom. His mom answered, "Yes, they will be." She, she saw the look on Oliver's face and said, "Please don't worry about the contest. You know, Grammy and Papa, all of us really are very proud of you. I know they are going to love your plan." Mom, Dad, and Nanny knew all about his plan, and Natty nodded in agreement. They were all very proud of him. Oliver hoped so. He didn't want his grandparents to think his idea was silly. That would be embarrassing. He would have hated it if they had come all that way and everyone thought what he was doing turned out to be dumb. Oliver's mom and dad assured him that his plan was a great idea, but he still wasn't sure. Everyone in his class was putting a lot of effort into theirs with all the stuff they were building and drawing plans, and Zach had even borrowed some of Oliver's small building blocks for his project. Oliver knew that Zach already had a huge collection of blocks. If he had used all his own blocks and was borrowing Oliver's, whew, Zach's project must be huge. Time flew, and soon, a week later, they were all at the airport to pick up his grandparents. It was so good to see them. There were big hugs, kisses, and chatting all around. His grandparents kept going on and on about how much he had grown. Oliver couldn't stop talking all the way in the car to his place. When they got to his place, his nanny had already put the kettle on for tea and turned their coffee maker on. Everyone finally had a chance to sit down and relax. The smell of fresh crab cakes cooking filled the air. Grammy and Papa loved visiting Brigus, Newfoundland. They loved fresh seafood, and they knew it didn't get any fresher than being right here in Brigus. They always knew they were going to be eating very well. Later, after supper, while they enjoyed their coffee and desserts, Grammy had unpacked and she had something special for Oliver. She handed a gift-wrapped present to him. "This is for you, Oliver. Something special I thought you might like. I knitted this specifically for the big contest coming up. I know you mentioned that your blue whale stuffed plushie was lucky, so I thought you might like to bring that luck to school for the contest," she said. "Thank you so much," replied Oliver as he took the gift. He kind of thought he knew what was in the package. Probably a new hand-knit sweater. He loved wearing the warm homemade sweaters, especially in the fall and winter. Opening the gift, Oliver became very excited. He shouted, "Oh my goodness, I love it!" It was a sweater just like he suspected, but this one was different. Different and also special. The sweater was the same color as his stuffed blue whale and had a little blue whale knitted into it, where a logo would be on the front. In stitching along the bottom of the whale picture was written, big blue. "This is to wear for the contest," said his Grammy. Grammy then went on to tell him she hoped it would bring him luck. Oliver was so happy. He would now be able to wear his lucky whale. Even happier was Jasper, who was parading around with a new rubber squeaky blue toy in the shape of a whale. The next day was the big day, contest day. Mom and Nanny were in the kitchen cooking up a big seafood breakfast when Oliver came downstairs. "Come on and eat something. It will give you strength," Nanny told Oliver. But he was not very hungry at all. He had not slept very well last night. He had a dream that he was trying to remember. As he picked up some of Nanny's pancakes, his dream started coming back. It had been about Big Blue, and for some reason, this time it made Oliver nervous. Oliver was very nervous about the contest, and he was worried that if he didn't do well, he couldn't help the blue whales. That was probably it. His grandparents were very interested in his plan and asked to see it, but he told them he wanted to wait until after, at the contest. "So everyone can be surprised," he told his grandparents. He tried to make it sound like it was mysterious, but honestly, he wasn't sure about his idea at all. After breakfast, they loaded up into 2 vehicles and headed towards Oliver's school. The plan was to drop Oliver off, and then they were going for coffee at the coffee shop. The school had requested the students' families to come an hour later after school started. As Oliver was going into the school, he could see there was so much excitement. It was crazy busy. Oliver's class was a hive of activity. Everyone was to meet in their classrooms first, and then those with projects would all go down to the gym to set up their displays. Some kids had come in extra early to set up their projects, so there were pieces of models everywhere being put together. Besides the models, there were large cardboard boats, lots of plans on big sheets of Bristol board. For some reason, some students had used styrofoam for their models. Oliver knew that styrofoam was terrible for the environment. It was meant for space. That wasn't very good. Oliver himself didn't feel good. He not only felt nervous, but he also actually felt kind of silly. He went to his desk and sat down. As he looked around, he saw the other kids' desks were piled high with their project. Oliver had only an old fishing tote bag of garbage and blue ledger book in his backpack. He put the backpack on the floor next to his desk. Lots of kids were going from desk to desk, chatting with each other and admiring each other's plans and projects. As they passed by his desk, he felt that they were looking at him strangely. "Where's your project, Oliver?" asked Zach and Joey. The other kids, too, kept asking him. "I have it here in my backpack," replied Oliver. "Aren't you going to set it up?" asked Joey. "Not yet. I will later. It doesn't take very long to set up at all," he replied. Noah and Nash passed by and asked Oliver about his project, too. He couldn't explain to them either what he was doing. Still, they both wished him well, and he was grateful for that. There he sat, alone at his desk, nervous, with a sick feeling. Mrs. Harding went up to Oliver's desk and showed him a text on her phone. It was from Bo. The text read, "Good luck, Oliver, with your plan. I think it's a great idea. Call me later and let me know how you made out with it." Oliver didn't think he would be calling Bo later on at all. Chapter 12. The Solution to Pollution. Inside the school, the gym was very busy. The judges had arrived and had already started walking around to each of their desks set up in the gym. The way it was set up, Oliver's desk would be last. He wished it was sooner because he was getting even more nervous. The only good thing about what was going on was that he was wearing his new big blue whale sweater. It did feel like he was wearing a lucky charm. This made him feel better. Big Blue was with him. Oliver looked around the crowded room. Although the gym was a fair size, there wasn't much room left because so many people had come. Oliver wondered where they had all come from. He could see his parents, with his nanny and grandparents coming in the gym door. They were chatting with each other and looking for seats in the crowded gym. Oliver gulped and looked around. The top of his desk was the only empty one. The judges had started and were slowly going around each of the desks. They stopped at every one of them, studying the presented project carefully and asking lots of questions. It seemed to take forever. Finally, the judges came to Oliver's desk. At first, they didn't know whether to stop or not because there wasn't anything on the desk. Quickly, Oliver pulled the two items out of his backpack and placed them on his desk. The judges were really puzzled now by the tote bag of garbage and the blue book on his desk. One of the judges, an older lady, asked Oliver to explain his project. That was when Oliver started his speech. His project was actually a speech he had written and memorized. At first, he started talking very low, but then as he became more confident, he got louder. He started to feel more at ease. This happened when he realized the judges, although a bit puzzled, seemed to become very interested in what he had to say. He suddenly had the confidence to stand up and continue. You can build all the machines you want, but it won't stop the pollution from happening. The machines are made to clean up after we've polluted. We need not to just pollute in the first place. We need stronger laws against people or factories that pollute. They must stop. The laws we have now are not enough to stop littering and polluting. We all need to be better at recycling too. If we didn't pollute in the first place, we wouldn't have anything to clean up. Even us here at school, we create so much garbage just from our lunches. Everyone must stop and think about how we do everyday things. Maybe if everyone, not just our school, but every school, packed their lunch without garbage waste, they could be using reusable containers to start. We could stop creating that garbage that pollutes. Oliver continued, but most of all, and this is what my project is about, we need everyone to not just stop dropping their trash, we need everyone picking it up. Any litter or garbage, anything like that we see thrown down around us, pick it up. If we all did this, we could clean up a lot. Oliver opened the ledger book and showed the judges. On average, he picked up about 400 grams a day. That's almost a pound of garbage collected from the beach each day. You could see the numbers in the ledger were doubled when Bo was helping. He was sure to point out that to the judges. If one person alone could pick up 400 grams or a pound a day, can you imagine if everyone picked up that amount? One person can make a difference, but together we could become a mighty force. Can you imagine if everyone in this room alone picked up this much garbage? The judges seemed very impressed. They really enjoyed looking at the models and construction the children had made. Some projects really were very well done. There really were a lot of good ideas, but compared to Oliver's, they all seemed so much more complicated, and some were very expensive. Oliver's idea seemed so much, well, plainer, more simple, inexpensive, and the idea itself so true. Be really careful not to litter and clean up anything you do see that's garbage. As Oliver said, if we all thought carefully about the garbage we created in the first place, that would be a good start. Then we must make sure any garbage we did have was properly disposed of. Finally, when they clean up their own garbage, clean up any extra we see around us. Most importantly, people have to remember that if we didn't pollute in the first place, there would be no garbage getting into the sea. Many people in the crowded gym suddenly started to clap. They seemed to like this idea. After looking over all the entries one more time, the judges huddled together and whispered amongst themselves. The kids sat at their desks, very nervous, while they waited for the judges to decide. Oliver sat down and started packing up his tote bag and ledger book. He had done it. He had not just spoken out for the herring gull and the blue whales, but for all the creatures of the sea, which is what he had set out to do. The judges finally indicated they had a winner. They had the contest results. Not a sound could be heard as they stepped forward to announce the winner. The winner of the solution to water pollution was Oliver Dorian. It was Oliver Dorian. Everyone, including Oliver, was surprised. He never expected to win. He had just wanted to be heard. There really was nothing much to his project. No big models, no fancy plans, nothing complicated. And he certainly hadn't spent any money. He hadn't expected to win. His project was just so simple. He had really just entered this contest to be heard, to voice his opinion on how we really could protect our seas. Chapter 13. Oliver is heard. The following week, Oliver gave his speech at the Brigus Community Center. Once again, he proudly wore his sweater, which he now called his lucky blue sweater. The Brigus Community Center was packed. Oliver was surprised to see all the kids from his school was there. Some even had homemade signs with "Go Oliver, go" and "Way to go Oliver" on them. With his parents there, Nanny and grandparents, Bo and Bo's family, and his own class and school to support him, he now stood tall and proud. He was no longer nervous either. He truly believed in what he was saying and doing. He always had. The difference now was he was being heard. Oliver stood up when his name was called, and then the mayor introduced him as the winner of the contest. He took a deep breath, rubbed his big blue sweater for luck, and then told everyone his idea, just as he did at school before the judges. He told the crowd, "We need stronger laws on people and the companies that pollute. We must also ask ourselves how the garbage gets into the sea to start with." And so he went on. If we didn't pollute in the first place, we would have nothing to clean up. If everyone cleaned up after themselves first and then after others, imagine how much would get cleaned up. If people didn't litter in the first place, there wouldn't be that much to clean, really. It's all up to each and every one of us to not leave a mess behind. It's not just people, it's factories and all the big companies, too. Everyone needs to first be responsible for their own garbage and then take the responsibility to other people's garbage too. If everyone did this, there wouldn't be any garbage left around us that could pollute our sea. Oliver looked over at the crowd. He could see his friends and classmates cheering for him. And on he went, so very sure of himself. He wasn't embarrassed of his tote bag or trash or blue ledger anymore. The people of the little fishing village all stood up and cheered. What a great idea! This is something everyone could do, and even better, it didn't cost anything. The mayor proudly shook Oliver's hand. For the first time ever, Oliver blushed. He was embarrassed, but in a good way. The village was going to start over using Oliver's idea right away. Everyone was expected to join in, and everyone there wanted to. They wanted to help their land, and especially their sea. Chapter 14. Protect what we have. It seemed so short, his grandparents' visit. Now it was time for them to go home to Montreal. They were so proud of Oliver, not just for winning the contest. They were proud of the young boy he was and the way he thought of and cared for the environment and others. He wanted to protect not just the sea itself, but all the creatures that lived there. They loved his idea and would be taking it home with them. As they were driving to the airport at St. John's, Newfoundland, His Grammy and Papa wished Oliver they were going to follow his example. They also promised Oliver that they would be voting for stronger laws and push for more recycling in their own community. But most of all, not only would they never leave a mess anywhere, but they would also help pick up after other people's messes. Someone else's garbage really is our garbage too, after all. It will not go away on its own. We all must pitch in and take care of it. It was just the right thing to do. It was also something, as Oliver had said, everyone can do. Although he missed his grandparents, Oliver slept very well that night. The sound of the waves outside his window lulled him into a wonderful dream of Big Blue and the sea. Big Blue seemed so happy now. He seemed more peaceful in this dream. Maybe it was because Oliver was protecting the sea and getting others to protect it too. Oliver wanted more, though. He didn't want to be the only voice. He wanted everyone to become the voice that the sea needed, to make and keep the sea mighty again, to protect what we have. Chapter 15. The Return of Big Blue. With school ending, the real summer was just about to start. Oliver would be helping his father more on their fishing boat now, but first they were going to celebrate Oliver's win from the school contest and his speech at the Burgess Community Center. Oliver's mom and dad had invited Bo and his parents to come on a leisurely boat ride. Not just a nice boat ride on this beautiful summer day, but a picnic too on the boat. After all the excitement of the last 2 weeks, it would be nice to just relax and enjoy a day on the sea. The ride out into the water was lovely. The sea was calm, and the gentle rocking of the boat added to everyone's relaxation. There were a few other boats out on the water too. They passed a couple of fishing boats, and there was a boat with tourists in it out on the calm waters. Most of the tourists were binoculars and were hoping for a glimpse of the whales that sometimes passed by these waters. Suddenly, there was quite a commotion coming from the tourist boat. Someone on the boat had spotted a whale nearby. Andy and the captain of the other boat stopped their engines to make sure they did not bother the whale. It was totally quiet, with only a lone herring gull circling the boat. But where exactly was the whale? Where did it go? Everyone on board the Violette and the other boat searched around the water looking for it. Suddenly, through the perfectly still waters, huge amounts of water started to churn up. Something very large was under the water near the boats. Whatever it was massive. It didn't take long for the super large object to break the surface of the water. It was a whale, and it was huge. The tourists were going crazy, yelling to each other and getting their phones and cameras ready, trying to get a good picture. What a commotion it was creating. Mr. Harding suddenly pointed to the left side of the boat. That was where the whale was, and then we all heard Bo call out, "It's a blue whale!" And indeed, it was a blue whale, and it was a big one, the biggest mammal alive. It surfaced between the two boats with its massive head and slowly turned towards Oliver's boat. They could even see its giant eye. They were that close. It seemed to be looking at them. Suddenly, Oliver knew. He didn't even have to check the color patterns or the tail. He just knew. He yelled out to the others, "It's him! It's Big Blue! Look, everyone! It's Big Blue!" Everyone did get a good look. It was hard to miss the giant creature coming out of the sea. Then, as suddenly as he had appeared, he dived down under the water and was gone. Oliver was saddened. He wanted to yell out, "Wait!" but he knew that would be silly. But he felt better knowing that at least Bo had gotten to see him, along with the others. He was happy with that. Bo was so excited that he had finally got to see him, after all. Everyone from both of the boats stayed quiet for a moment, just trying to take in what they had just witnessed. The waters were eerily calm once again. The boat and everyone on the boats stayed perfectly still. It felt like something was about to happen, something big. And then it happened. Out of the water shoots the gigantic blue whale, Big Blue. Full and straight up into the air he went. He did a full circle spin around in the air, and the tourists went wild, a full breach. What an incredible, rare sight! This was what they had hoped to witness. It was awesome. It was amazing. It wasn't just the tourist boat cheering now. Everyone on Oliver's boat was cheering too. A full breach right in front of their boat. The splash created when the big blue whale came back down and hit the water was massive. The waves splashed everyone on both boats. Even though everyone got soaked, they kept taking pictures. Nothing was going to stop them from capturing this moment. This was a rare opportunity of a lifetime for the tourists. Everyone was wet and still went wild. What a sight to see. And then, just as suddenly as he appeared, Big Blue was gone. And then a very wet Beau whispered to an even wetter Oliver, "I think that was a message for you, Oliver. Since that's how whales communicate, I think it's a thank you." Oliver nodded. "Yes, I think you're right," said Oliver. "I do think the sea speaks to me, but I think it's speaking now to all of us." Once again, the sea became calm. The lone herring gull circled around the fishing boat once more, cawed twice, and then it, too, disappeared. Chapter 16. The End. And that is the story of Oliver Dorian, who lived by the sea. A young boy who truly believed that we need stronger laws on pollution to stop people and big businesses from polluting our waters, that we all need to recycle, reuse, and reduce the amount of garbage we each produce. We need each and every one of us to clean up after ourselves, and then just a bit more after others whenever we see an opportunity. Alone, we are small, but when we come together, we can become a mighty force, as mighty as the sea. The sea is speaking to all of us. What can I do? I'm only one person, said 38 million Canadians. Wow. I really like that ending as well. But that's it in its entirety. A children's book by Maryte Running called Oliver Dorian. It is my sincere hope that I did this story justice. If my cadence and my voice seems a bit off during some time in this recording, well, it's likely because I'm facing a lot of autistic burnout at the moment. It snuck up on me and hit me like a ton of bricks last week. And so even the act of talking now and speaking aloud requires a certain amount of mental effort and preparation. And so a lot of editing had to be done this time around. But I'm confident I will get my flow back once my nervous system regulates itself again, and I'll be able to have a nice quiet environment in which I can do this kind of thing, and all the spoons that are necessary to do it consistently. So there you have it, though. That's 9B, Oliver Dorian by Maryte Running. And I'm very glad that we got to put your story out there, Maryte. It's an awesome one, and I'm very sorry that it's taken this long. It's been a wild couple of weeks, and there's been a lot to get used to and a lot of changes happening. On a brighter note, I actually have a week coming up now that's going to be very busy with certain opportunities in my writing career. I've got 2 articles that I have to write right now, and a couple of them, without giving away too much, are actually on a national platform. So, woohoo! I do have to get those projects finished, and I need to give them my due attention. And so after this episode, there will be about a 2-week break until we encounter our next episode, episode 10. And episode 10 will be dedicated to our late editor, Trish Stone, who is a friend of mine. That episode will contain a short story written by me in her honor. And the title of that short story has officially been renamed The Modcaster. So it was kind of something that her and I started together at one night. And I need to finish it now for her. So stay tuned for that one. Cheers, everyone. Join us next Friday for more stories from the rock.